Hi there. Now, I'm going to ask you a question. What if you had a condition that your doctor couldn't diagnose? It's such a pleasure to be here. My name's Dr. Jennifer Tanner. I'm an expert on the health of female runners. Over the past 14 years of working with patients, one of the things I've seen time and time again is patients coming or even crawling into the office. They're so tired. Yet when they visit their doctor, they're told nothing's wrong. The system has failed us. The system has not empowered women to take control of their bodies. In fact, it feels like at times like that control has been taken away. When our questions are answered, we feel like we can literally move mountains. But when we're left with no answers and no treatment options for our crippling fatigue, it really is a disservice to our population. I've seen this in my practice time and time again, but I want to tell you about one woman in particular and how her life was profoundly changed when we addressed the root cause of her fatigue. This woman is just like you. She's a runner. She's a mother. This woman is me. So when I was training for my first marathon, I never told anyone I was training for a marathon. I was afraid. I was afraid to say it out loud. I was afraid that if I couldn't hold up my end of the bargain, I'd be exposed as a failure, basically. Yet people saw me running all over town and they started asking questions. So I thought, you know what? I've paid my $150 to run the marathon. I'm committed. I'm going to start telling people. But when I told them, the response is more like, oh, really? Don't you want to start with a 5K? Not exactly the words of inspiration I was hoping for. But no, I wasn't interested in a 5K. I wasn't interested in a 10K. I wasn't even interested in a half. Those distances, they had no meaning to me. Despite what people were saying to me, I knew I could do it. I knew something that they didn't. Even though my passion to do this ran deeper than my fitness level at the time. I mean, in the beginning, I couldn't even run to the library and back, which was about 1 kilometer away. But I didn't care. I got a training plan and I had found a passion. I'd found a cause and I was going to do this. I was going to do this in memory of my dad. So my dad and I were really close when we were growing up. We would hang out outside. We would fix the bike together. I'd take my shirt off because I wanted to be like him when I was a little kid. We'd, repair the car and we'd build things. We were always measuring twice and only cutting once. Now, we had this great little wiener dog. She was so cute, but her legs were like literally this long. And we'd go for bike rides or we'd go for runs, and she was such a trooper. She would always keep up. And she was hilarious because not only would she keep up, but she'd want to be just in front of the pack. And those little tiny legs, they would move, 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 move. And so if you sped up, she'd sped up. If you slowed down, she'd slow down. It was great. Now, flash forward about 30 years. I get a phone call from my parents. There's something we need to talk to you about. Your father has cancer. So now I spend the next year driving back and forth to Ottawa every week. It went from him holding my hand to me holding his hand. My friend said, oh, that must be really horrible. And it was, but it wasn't. I had an opportunity to spend some time with my dad. He slowly withered away until he was pretty much a skeleton. And that part really was hard to watch. But we would sit together. I would read him the business section of the newspaper and we'd talk about stocks. And my brother was really fabulous. He would come in every morning and he would write a different inspirational quote up on his wall. Now, my dad was a man of dignity. His strength was beyond anything I'd ever seen. He faced cancer with a smile. And not only did he not complain of the excruciating pain he was in, not once did he complain that his life was being stripped away. Not once did he complain of missing out on something. He knew what was happening and he faced it with grace. So when he died, I knew that I could do it too. That was when I knew that no pain or struggle I could possibly face in a 42.2K would compare to what he went through with grace. It was then that I knew I could run the 42.2K, and it was the same marathon that he ran. So his steps literally led the way for me. So I did it. It was one of the most rewarding moments in my life, and I loved it. I loved running. I felt free. I was on top of the world. I felt totally amazing until I didn't. About 6 months after the marathon, I kept running and I kept doing everything. I crashed, and I crashed hard. It took me another 6 months to recognize just how bad things really were. I have 3 kids. I have 2 practices. I have a busy life. I get it. I have a tendency to just push ahead, especially if there's that emotional aspect. We just keep going. But I knew something was wrong. I was having a hard time getting up. And normally I'm that person that just pops out of bed. I'm excited to start the day. I was forgetting things. I was getting debilitating migraines. They would just knock me out for days. I was getting injured. I was crying all the time. And worst of all, I was snapping at the kids. I was even going to bed before the kids. But the snapping piece, that's now my benchmark to stress. If I feel that I'm extra irritated, then that's a big heads up to me that something's got to shift. So I went to multiple doctors. I had blood work. I had MRIs done. The results were always the same. There's nothing wrong with you. Then why do I feel like this? I felt like there was no time to deal with this. And that's where I was wrong. I needed to deal with this. I needed to prioritize my health. There's no change in my energy. My injuries stayed the same, and my ability to be carefree and fun, none of that changed until I came to this realization, until I created some sense of awareness. I found practitioners that asked the right questions and ran the right tests. I found people that helped me find answers. Now in practice, I see this pattern time and time again. And you know who is notorious for falling into this pattern? You. Women. We are just so fabulous that we can do it all until we can't. And this is what we're going to talk about today. So for about the next 30 minutes, we're going to lay out the framework for you to get your life back. Now, one thing to ask yourself, are you running or are you running on empty? So when we're looking at your own body, we want to make sure, just like any financial investment, that it's a good return on investment. Now, the University of Texas showed that exercise alone is not nearly as effective as combining exercise with diet and lifestyle training. I mean, that's not rocket science. We kind of knew that. But, it was really interesting. The people in this study, they did 60 hours of personal training, one-on-one personal training, and they lost 1.5 pounds as a whole. So 60 hours for 1.5 pounds, that's not a good return on investment. If you are stressed and you are burnt out and you are run down, you are tired all the time, you are not investing in yourself. You are running out of gas, and we need to support that system. Can you think of anything better than to invest in yourself? I mean, the returns are going to be huge. That's the one thing we all have in common that we need to succeed. We need our health. No matter what our goals, whether they're health goals, whether they're financial goals, whether they're fitness goals, you need your health in place in order to succeed. So ask yourself, how are those energy reserves? Do you find yourself burning out? A lot of people will have that 2:00 dip when it comes to those energy reserves. They go up a little bit and then they drop. But looking at the stats, as energy levels deplete, the risk of making a bad play increases. This is a soccer stat. So 30% of all goals in soccer are scored in the last 15 minutes of the match. And why am I telling you about that? because it also relates to our own personal life. Think of the mistakes you might have made at work. It usually ends in the last quarter when you're just tired and you're struggling, your brain isn't quite as sharp, you just want to get out of there. When are you going to snap at your kids? Usually later on in the day. You just don't have those reserves anymore. Now, we all have busy lives. We all have roadblocks. I have them too. We need to refocus our roadblocks, and they are more bumps in the road to our success. We're busy. We need to rearrange our time. We don't have the energy. Well, that's what we're going to work on today. So some of those roadblocks, some of those things that might be stopping you from feeling what you're feeling. Now, these are all signs that you might have some of the roadblocks. And sick, tired, and sad, it's not normal. I mean, it's common because a lot of us experience it, but it's a symptom. It's a symptom of what's going on. And as are all of these, they're all symptoms of your body's way of sticking up its hand and saying, hey, someone please pay attention to me. Something is not right. So I believe knowledge is power. And understanding our body, understanding our physiology, it helps us understand the answer. We're going to go through a little bit of that today so you can help understand and create better solutions for yourself. So this is why we're tired. Adrenal fatigue is a condition that quite often gets overlooked. It's something that, it ranges from everyday stress that we all experience to debilitating, like you're crawling into the office. So what happens is you have your adrenal glands produce adrenaline. Your adrenal glands sit on top of your kidneys. And throughout the day, they start producing adrenaline. But your body hasn't evolved to the stressors that it used to with the fight or flight response. That fight or flight response still kicks in to everyday things. I'm late, I have a deadline, I have to pick up the kids, I'm rushing around, I'm grocery shopping. All those things elicit adrenaline responses. Along with adrenaline, you have cortisol. Cortisol makes you hold weight on your midsection, not where we want to be holding weight. Ideally, it's to protect your organs, but we don't really need organ protection anymore. We do not have a saber-toothed tiger attacking us. We just have our desks. So looking at your energy levels, they start to, instead of having these nice curves, we wake up tired, we have coffee, it goes up our energy. Around 2 o'clock, the energy starts to plummet a little bit. People need a little bit of support to pick it back up. So either a second coffee or a muffin, and then this zigzaggy pattern continues to happen. So if you're using coffee or sugar as a crutch, that's a sign that those adrenal glands, they're struggling a little bit. So it can lead to inflammation. So people who are more stressed out are more likely to get hurt or get injuries that they just can't recover from. Dizziness, low blood sugar levels, back pain, difficulty with night energy and sleep, lightheadedness, hormone dysregulation. So when you look at your hormones, you have your thyroid, your ovaries, and your adrenal glands. They all support each other on this endocrine hormone level. So you have all these stressors coming in, and hitting that adrenal gland is going to start relying on other organs for support. This is why your body's fabulous, because it's created all these extra routes where it can survive. But when that survival mode becomes chronic, you're going to be depleting yourself of nutrients, and you're going to be setting yourself up for chronic disease later on. So what I'm looking at is, what are the things that you're doing today? How's that going to affect you 10, 20, 30 years down the road? It's so much easier to treat things now than it is later. Now, tell me, when was the last time you had a good, wholehearted laugh? Like, think about it. This is our life. We have one life. And if you can't laugh, my goodness, we need to take a break, right? So looking at laughter, there's a few stats here. So the study done by the Vanderbilt University, they showed that just 10 to 15 minutes of laughter a day can burn up to 40 calories. That's awesome. Way more fun than hitting the Stairmaster. University of Maryland showed protection against heart disease. So again, looking at helping support things 10, 20, 30 years down the road, improves recall ability. The Journal of Canadian Family Medicine said laughter affects your stress hormones. So those epinephrine, norepinephrine, cortisol, those stress hormones that we were just talking about for adrenal fatigue. Now, William B. Streen even suggested that laughter become a prescription. How awesome was that? If you went to your doctor and they said, you know what, here's a prescription for something, but I also want you to laugh 10 minutes a day. I could totally do that. But think about adults. For some reason, we lose that ability to laugh. How often do you think an adult laughs? Maybe 15 times a day. Now think about a kid. Everything is funny to a kid and silly, and they're rolling around. Oh my goodness. Children laugh 300 to 500 times a day. So fun. So we totally need to start laughing a little bit more. But what we need to be doing is this is creating an outlet for those stressors. Because when we're stressed out at work, it starts to build up and it starts to build up and it starts to build up and it crushes us. And we're not as active as we used to be. And we don't have that physical outlet, but laughing can actually provide you with that physical outlet to let go of some of that pent up, debilitating energy. Now, we all know that we should be sleeping. For those of you who are getting less than 6 hours of sleep a night, those people are more predisposed to chronic disease. So ideal, 7 to 9 hours, get to bed around 10 o'clock. For every hour of sleep you get before midnight, it's like 2 hours after. So your body starts to respond to the melatonin, the sleep-wake cycles. You know what? One thing that we tend to do, and I'm totally guilty of this too, is electronics are incredibly handy, but they're also really debilitating when it comes to our stressors. So when you're looking at your electronics, so it releases this, like if you ever see on TV, like a computer screen, it's kind of flickery. Your eyes are constantly going to be shifting and adjusting to that flickering, and it's a stimulus to your nervous system. So when you do these things at nighttime, then that's going to stimulate your nervous system, not relax your nervous system. So your muscles might feel relaxed because you're just kind of chilling out, going on a Netflix binge or whatnot. But we really need to clear the bedroom of electronics, move those things out and save them for another time. Read a book, do some deep breathing, use one of those awesome apps like calm.com. Now, which fridge does your fridge look like? The one on the left or the one on the right? It really is the small changes that will add up to a big one. Now, again, I would be looking at what you're eating and how those foods might be affecting you, looking for nutrient deficiencies. Are you absorbing what you're eating? Some people might be eating this awesome fridge with kale and peppers and spinach and whatnot, but they might not be able to utilize those nutrients. That's going to leave you feeling fatigued and run down and frustrated because you're obviously making effort. Now, the sugars and whatnot on the other side, those can have a huge impact on mood, our ability to focus, and other disorders. Now, this diet is kind of interesting. So this compares our modern day diet to a pre-agricultural diet. So looking at modern day diet, we have about 10% of dairy products. Our caloric intake accounts for 10% dairy, 20% cereals, 20% refined sugars. It's enough in there that it's actually its own category. Refined vegetable oils, 20%. And for some, alcohol can consume up to 72% of their daily energy. Now, when you look at the pre-agricultural diet, this is the part that I found so interesting, that little to none of the energy we consume today is that what they consumed prehistorically. That's huge. We've had these huge shifts in our diet, and it has not done us any favors. We need to shift back and go to more ground roots foods. One of the biggest offenders for today, like you saw in there, that 20% of our diet is sugar. For a 2,000 calorie diet, 5% would be adequate. That would equate to about 25 grams, or for women, about 6 teaspoons, for men, about 9 teaspoons. Even that kind of sounds like a lot, but if you're eating packaged foods and whatnot, it tends to be hidden in a lot of foods and drinks, especially like a fancy drink. So the average American consumes 19.5 teaspoons every day. Over the course of a year, that would equate to 66 extra pounds. And we wonder why the scale kind of goes up a little bit, goes up a little bit, goes up a little bit. Now, if you were to get one of those fancy drinks, a 16-ouncer, some of those drinks have 40 grams of sugar. That's 2.8 tablespoons, not teaspoons. That's the same as eating 2 Twinkies, and that's what you're having for breakfast. So if you don't use the calories from sugar, you're just going to store it. It's going to affect those glycemic indexes. Our mood's going to go up and down. It's not sustainable energy, so people end up getting hungry and end up eating more. Your immune system, it can lower, and you are more predisposed to getting colds and flus. But performance, it's really hard to perform when you're having these crashes going up and down. So go on a 30-day kick sugar. Swap those sugars out for something healthier like maple syrup, honey, agave, stevia. Those guys, they've got micronutrients in there. They've got antibacterial properties, minerals, way better choice. Now, when you're really stressed out and you've got a bazillion things on your to-do list, your body's looking for a break. And any kind of edge we can give it is just going to soak up. So one of the ways that we can do that is eat warm foods. So both warm in temperature and warm in nature. So soups, stews, bone broths, really, really jam-packed full of minerals that your gut's just going to absorb right up, especially for someone who has a little bit more, they might be that person that's eating healthy, but they've got some difficulty from the absorption department. Start your day with a warm glass of lemon water. Your liver just loves that. It's going to detoxify your body. It also helps the stomach producing stomach acid. So by the time the food gets there, it's already at a level where it could start digesting things. So remember, we're going to shift over to some warm things. Also, warm in nature, like turmeric. Great. Add that into your soups, your stews. Add that into your smoothie. It's going to make your smoothie orange, and it might stain your blender, but it's going to be awesome. So rethinking the carbs a little bit. When we're really stressed out, I'd love to gravitate towards sweet potatoes, quinoa, chia. The properties in there, they can just sustain our brain function a little bit longer without bringing it down. Snack attack. We tend to gravitate towards sugary, more packaged things as snacks, but look at all these awesome options we have for snacks. And one way to prevent that afternoon dip is to grab a snack around 2 o'clock. So we're preventing that spike and drop in blood sugar. We're already providing ourselves with some sustainable calories. And when you start to shift your diet over, your diet doesn't have to be boring. So look at these options: lentil and spinach soup, chocolate, cherry, oatmeal, chickpea, mango, cauliflower, creamy asparagus, and pea soup. And it doesn't have to be difficult. Something as simple as chopped up melons with some chia seeds. This one's got some chia or matcha in it. Chickpea sunflower sandwich for those that are looking to go a little bit more plant-based, reduce that inflammation somewhat. Butternut squash, tempeh, tacos. There's really a whole world of food just waiting for it to discover it. We tend to be creatures of habit and have about the same 20 foods over and over and over again. I like to think of what we eat as an insurance policy. The better we are at it, the better we feel. Now, what you do and what you eat, it really matters. So again, what you think matters. These are just to recap some of the things that we went through here. So we're going to laugh. We're going to get off the electronics. They're just too stimulating. We're going to kick sugar for 30 days. Swap out for those healthier choices. Consume those warm foods, the warm lemon water, and have a snack at 2 o'clock to sustain those blood sugar levels. Now, if you're not sure, test. I have spent years and gone through hundreds and hundreds of patient cases. So we've been able to create a methodology to take you through step-by-step systems where we can build your energy up and we can remove some of those obstacles. Now, I love using functional medicine testing. We have a lot of different test options. Now, one of the things that I talk about a lot is our gut function. And in fact, we're going to be doing a whole seminar just on this aspect. But for today, we're just going to touch a little bit on how your intestines affects your absorption. So if you've got some inflammation within that gut lining, now you have the ability for these microorganisms to access your bloodstream. Things that shouldn't be there now have access to them. Food sensitivities can start. This is where nutrient malabsorption can start. It's the beginning of autoimmune diseases and inflammation. And now some of these things have access to the blood-brain barrier. Your gut influences how you think as well. It can have an impact on your on anxiety, depression, mood. Now, when it comes to energy levels, we have a fantastic in-house functional medicine test that we run on the spot to tell people what their energy reserves are. This is a little bit of a different test. This one here in this example is a food sensitivity test that I ran when my youngest had really bad baby acne. You can see that on the one picture there. Her cheeks are just really cystic. I ran this test on myself. Blueberries, almonds, and pineapples came up. When I removed those foods, her skin cleared up. For me, I didn't have any digestive symptoms when I ate those foods, but I did feel, when I did an experiment with myself later, I would notice about 20 minutes later, I'll feel fatigued. I'll notice that I'm just kind of leaning on my hand a little bit, a little harder to think sharply. So if you're not sure, test. And we have a plethora of testing options available to us. Now, how did I get to that point in burnout? Like remembering back at my story there, when I look at these guys, this is my inspiration. This is what motivates me. This is what makes me want to be a better person. I mean, I have 3 kids. I thought that I could do it all, and I still think that I can do it all, but I also realize now that I need help. I don't want to get burnt out. I need to get back up on my horse and ride again, but this time I'm going to have somebody by my side. Now, when I was suffering from the burnout, I missed out on some of that family time. I missed out on years worth of running because I got hurt and I just could not heal that injury until I took a step back and saw its connections. I gained weight, my mood went down, and it wasn't until I found a practitioner that offered me the tests that I needed to identify the deficiencies that I was able to see the light. I was being offered the support and tools that my body needed, and it wasn't until I realized that I'm in control of my health. And now I want to help support you. I want you to have that same feeling, that same control. You're not alone. We all have busy lives. Remember that wiener dog with the tiny legs? That was an obstacle that she overcame. And I was thinking of her when I was running my marathon. I would find a little pack and I would run just in front of them with my tiny little legs, because that's one of my obstacles. I'm not super tall. But I was able to regain my strength and become a better mom, a better practitioner, so I can help more people. Now that I'm running again, it's amazing. And I'm doing it with my kids. I'm so lucky. I'm bringing my 6 and 8-year-old daughters. My one daughter, she's run the Scotiabank 5K. She's done so many different 5Ks and different obstacles. And the little one, she's just dying to get out there. She's actually done a couple 5Ks herself, that feisty little thing. But I'm getting precious time back with my family. I have the energy to put back into it. I have the ability to put my kids first, and it makes me a better mom. I know you might be thinking, well, yeah, but I've got kids, but all the more reason to do this. You are who they look up to. We need to lead by example. I have 3 kids too, and now I just involve them in the things that I do, so I don't have to choose one over the other. You might be thinking, yeah, but where do I find the time? You need your health to be in place to accomplish anything. If you get sick, that takes you out of the game completely. So we need to find the time. Think of the example as somebody cutting a tree. So you got this guy, he's up there with a chainsaw, and his chainsaw is dull, and he's cutting, it's sweating, and he just thinks, oh man, I don't want to come down out of the tree to get a new chainsaw, because that's going to waste my time. I'm just going to hack away and hack away. And then this other guy comes up, he skedaddles up the tree with a brand new chainsaw, and done. Sometimes we need to take a step back, reassess, and start again. It's okay to start again. It's okay to need that support. It's okay to come down out of the tree for a moment so that we can get back up there, like revived and ready to go. Now, some of you might be thinking, oh, I could just Google some of this. And yeah, you can Google it, but it's that structure. It's the structure and it's that personalization that's going to put it into place in a safe and effective manner for you. Sometimes it comes down to expenses, but the insurance companies are so fabulous now that a lot of people have coverage for naturopathic medicine, and not only coverage for that, but they have coverage for some of the functional medicine testing that we run as well. We also need to reprioritize how we think of our health. So we could go out on a weekend and have no problem spending $14.99 on a drink that lasts 10 minutes or $300 on a haircut and dye. That's not really things that are going to impact your health in your everyday life. But when you break down the cost of healthcare, it could be less than a Starbucks a day. Because really, when we feel good, we can literally run the world. Now, here's a few tips that we need to start prioritizing. We need to put our health first. So that's the one thing that we all have in common. We all need our health to be in place so that we can take it to the next level. You need to find your purpose. And I have my dad to thank for that. My dad helped me with that world vision. He helped me put things into perspective. What really matters? Is what's bothering me today, is that going to affect me in 10 years? Probably not. Probably not. We just need to take a breath and move through it. My purpose has changed. My purpose has gone to kind of more self-absorbed to broad thinking. I want to help as many people as I can possibly help. We only get one chance at this life, and I want to dance my way right until the very last day. If you're not getting the answers, if you're still tired, you need to find the right practitioner. You need to find the right tests that are going to give you those answers. And you need to lead by example. So not only people with kids, but people just, the youth is watching you, and they need those good examples. So I thank you, Dad, for leading by example, for dying with grace, for giving life one last smile, for running that Scotiabank marathon with your briefcase in your hand, for being a teacher. I want to change the world, and I'm going to start by changing my family. I'm going to support my patients, and I want to take you through that system. And this is what we did today. We went through just a few of the techniques that we would be using when we work together. So does this sound good? Does this sound like some action steps that you have that you can start today? You've got some of those lifestyle tips. You've got some of those dietary tips, some testing options, some physiology to understand what's going on. Now, we had this really amazing conversation about fatigue today, but the reality is that I gave you some key things that you can get started on. And most of us are probably going to be in agreement that preventing burnout is going to require a little more than just 3 take-home messages that you saw on this slide. In fact, probably what most of you also understand is that you are really going to need to do this. And you are really going to need to address your fatigue. This is not something that can go on. It's not something that can be left untreated without repercussions. You're probably going to want to work with a qualified practitioner, and you're going to want to go deeper. And just so you know, I'm going to invite you to work with me. But before I do that, I want to talk about a few things about me, about my approach. I approach things a little bit differently. I know when you if you've seen an ND before, you're not going to want to go on a list of 25 different supplements. That's not effective. That's not how I practice. I target the things that are going on, and we manage our symptoms with those targeted, systematic approaches. Thinking back to the beginning, when we had that slide on roadblocks, once you're in control of your health, those roadblocks become small bumps or detours or not even obstacles at all anymore. And they're not in the way of you gaining the energy that you deserve. I know that when you go see someone, it's not everybody is at a point where they want to address the root cause. And that's okay. But that's how I practice. We dig a little bit deeper and we try to find the root cause. We'll treat the adrenal glands if that's where your stressors are coming from, if that's the organ that's struggling a little bit. I'm going to listen to your concerns and create an individualized protocol to suit your needs. I am a runner. I'm a mom. I totally understand your needs. My goal is to make you stronger from the inside. Now, here's a big question. How are we going to apply this? How are we going to put this into a bigger strategy? Well, let me share some of the options moving forward. I'm going to circle back to my story again. So like you, I was trying to do it all. I was falling apart. It wasn't until I recognized, until I acknowledged and paid attention, until I stopped and heard those symptoms, that my stress was at a point where I could manage it, that I could put myself back together again. We're all stressed, but when it becomes too much and too much and too much, it just crushes us. And it becomes really hard to recover from that. We need the support. Ultimately, in my cases and many of my patients' cases, it's a series of a few simple steps that helps them and helped myself climb out of that ditch. But I had a specific strategy, and I did really specific functional testing, and we did so much more than you can possibly get done by just going to Google. I would really love for you to do that today, and I appreciate that you might not be ready to take that next step. So I want you to take out your phone, and I want you to go to my website, www.drjennifertannernd.com/energy test. Just for listening, I've got a special gift for you. I want you to share your name and email, and you're going to have access to a free energy test. This is my gift to you. This test is going to test our energy reserves and let us know how are we going to move forward and treat this. So this test is only being offered for the next couple weeks, just for the month of June. We're going to offer meet and greet appointments where we can run this in-house test. We'll have the results on the spot, and we can talk about what you need to get your life back. I invite you to work with me and take your health to a whole new level. For those that choose to work with me, we'll design your health. We'll look at the detailed testing. We'll create meal plans. We'll do lifestyle and supplement protocols. Also, we're going to be doing some really cool things at IHI over the next month. For yourself or for anyone else you might know that's looking to bring fitness back into their life, but they're just simply too tired, we've introduced a signature program called Fatigue to 5K. The program's geared towards those that might be a little more active, but they just don't have that energy. We're going to give you some tangible teachings from a qualified practitioner so that your Fatigue to 5K is going to take you from a place of burnout to a place of running strong. You're going to feel fantastic because my goal really is to make you stronger inside. I understand how the factors in your life fit together. I understand how our organs can communicate with each other, and we have an opportunity to get more value from our health. It's been so much fun hanging out with you. I'd love to hang out some more. Your last call to action, again, is to register for that meet and greet. So again, www.drjennifertannernd.com/energy test. There's a ton of value that I want you to get from this, and those strategies right now to get constant energy. So if you found this talk motivating today, or if there's one thing that just compelled you to action, then I want you to go to that website. I want you to go, and I want you to register for that energy test, and I want you to book your appointment today. So thank you very much for listening, and I'll see you soon.